Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. What can go wrong if your old man wants to send 20,000 pounds via suspicious money transfer company? You'll figure it out in our first story. Here we go. Try to scam my dad out of 20,000 pounds? Prepare to have regulators on your case and pay through the nose. So this happened a couple of years ago. My dad occasionally sends money back to his home country via those money transfer companies, and he'd recently sold his shop, so he wanted to send some money back home. Now, my dad isn't the most savvy of people, and me and my brother regularly have to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't get scammed. We were a bit worried when he said he wanted to send such a large amount of money in one go and suggested using a bank to do it. While it would cost a fair amount in fees, it'd be legit and would arrive on time. However, he wanted to go with this money transfer company he saw an ad for in a newspaper, as they had lower fees and promised the money would arrive in a week or so. So we accompany him to the shop and discuss how much it would cost and when it would arrive, and the guy gives his best assurances that the money will arrive and gives a good price, and of course we pay him the money and leave. We weren't stupid enough to pay in cash and have no trace whatsoever. We took precautions and paid by debit card, so there is a trace in case he tries anything funny. So a couple of days go by, and Dad periodically checks his bank account back home and checks if the money arrived. And of course, we say things like, "Give it time, it'll come soon," etc. After 2 weeks, still nothing. So he calls up and asks what's going on. The guy says it's just delayed, but nothing to worry about, so he hangs up satisfied. A week later, another call, another excuse. We think, okay, this is irritating, but fair enough, and not much we can do but be patient. More time goes by, and the excuses are now getting less professional. Now it's, "Oh, we had to use the money you gave us to pay off the previous guy who sent money, so when the next guy pays, you'll get yours." At this point, we're getting seriously worried and thinking, WTF, is this guy going bankrupt or something? We investigate our options with the bank and see if we can do any claimbacks, but they're not too helpful as it wasn't a fraud case and he paid willingly, so it's not their problem. We go to the shop to have a conversation with the guy to see if he actually plans on paying up or not and give him one last chance for the benefit of the doubt, and of course he gives us the same BS assurances, and nothing still happens 2 weeks later. Now the pro-revenge begins that you've been waiting for. In the UK, all financial organizations, no matter how small, are heavily regulated by government authorities, and if you run a business to do with money, they'll be watching you carefully. My brother, being a banker, knew exactly which authorities to contact, and he launched a complaint against this organization. He sent them proof of the payment and explained how they refused to send the money. Within a couple of days, they came down hard on him. Now, instead of my dad chasing him, he started chasing after my dad, begging him to withdraw the complaint as it was affecting his business, as the regulator was threatening investigations and a possible shutdown. He said, "I will send it soon, but please withdraw the complaint." Of course, we knew that as soon as the complaint was withdrawn, it'd be near impossible to recomplain. So we refused to withdraw until he paid up with compensation, of course. We also made sure that all correspondence was made through the regulator as he tried to call up my dad and get him to withdraw the case with his sob stories, which we also mentioned to the regulator. After he realized he wasn't getting anywhere, he eventually paid up the full 20,000 pounds and a further 1,500 in compensation for all the distress he caused, and a letter of apology to my dad, and the case was withdrawn. He scammed other people like my dad with his business, but they weren't educated enough to go to the regulator with a complaint. He must have gotten away with a lot over the years, so it felt good to make him realize that he can't mess with everyone he perceives to be an easy target. And our next story. We close at 10 means we close at 10. Last night I was at work at family-owned beverage shop. It's not my favorite job I've ever had because the customers are incredibly entitled. However, it's a fairly young business, and I've been in customer service long enough to not give in to spoiled customers just because they want me to. Anyway, the end of the night was approaching. Beautiful, sacred closing time. We'd gotten a decent rush about 20 minutes before we closed at 10 p.m., so we were a little cranky about how behind we were on finishing our tasks for the night. At 9:55, we're finally getting somewhere with our cleaning when the phone rings. Sounds like a youngish boy, I'd say 15 years old at most. He asked what time we closed, and I responded with my usual, we close at 10 every night, but we'll be open at 11 again tomorrow morning. That's not working for him. My friends and I really want some of your drinks, but we can't be there by 10. Can we come like 5 minutes after and still get drinks? I tell him no. The doors get locked promptly at 10. Oh, well, we really want the drinks. What can you do? I say, you can be here by 10 because I personally will be locking the doors. We hang up. I know he's going to try to come anyway. Sure enough, at 10:06, my coworkers and I hear a bunch of banging and rattling on the closed doors. Yep, like 3 or 4 high school-aged kids. Sorry, we're closed. Chairs are up, menus turned off, someone's mopping, the doors are locked. Anytime they catch one of our eyes, which we all do our best to avoid, they give us what they think are puppy dog eyes, and we laugh and shake our heads at them. No dice. They keep assaulting the doors. It's getting annoying, so I look up at them brightly with a big smile and start walking toward the doors. They start getting excited, thinking they finally worn us down. I hold eye contact until I swerve to the right and turn off all the lights. I could hear their collective, disappointment through the door. It felt amazing. They left, I laughed, I won. Our last story, and yes, it's about Karen, taking down Queen Karen, president of the HOA. Okay, this happened years ago, 1985 to be exact. I was 45 when this happened, 81 now. So after my second retirement, I started doing property management. I bought this 2,500 square foot luxury home with the sole intention of renting it out. Now, I didn't know how bad the HOA was, but when I became the owner, I soon found out. This all took place in 2 years' time. Karen would literally have a problem with everyone in the neighborhood. Trash cans left out? Fined. Loud music after 10 p.m.? Fined. Yard sale without permission? Fined. Removing dead plants and replanting without approval? You get fined. It went on and on like this. Now, anyone in the community could run for the HOA board, but the HOA board chose the president. 6 out of the 10 members on the board liked Karen, so she always kept her job. Her husband was in the medical field, so he made a lot of money. It got to a point to where she was called Queen Karen in this neighborhood, and her dishing out HOA fines. Now, I used to go in person to collect the rent because the people that rented my house were good friends of mine. I did this for months. So I would park my car by the front of the garage. I and my friends would have some music on, but it wasn't that loud. Queen Karen came over, driving her golf cart, and said, "Excuse me." Me. Yeah? "You have to turn that music down. It's too loud." I told her that it was 8 p.m. and music that's even loud can be played until 10. She wasn't having it and demanded that I do so. Now my friends and I kept the music going and were enjoying ourselves. She proceeded to get angry and fined me. Now, most people will just take the abuse and pay the fine. Not me. I went to the HOA board, contested the fine, and won. From that point on, Queen Karen made it her personal mission to destroy me. She would bitch and fuss about every little thing. I fought what I could, but I did end up paying for some of it. She also went after my tenants, which made things worse for me. I had to sit down with my friends one night to discuss the problem. When I parked my car, Queen Karen came over in her robe and said I have to park someone else. I did because I didn't want to start anything. We see her go back into her house and embrace a man that isn't her husband. We were being noisy and we came to the conclusion that she was cheating on her husband. Spoiler alert, she was. My friends and I told Queen Karen's husband I'm sure he did some investigating because 3 months later they divorced and he was moving his stuff out. Now, gossip said that Queen Karen got nothing because she was the one that cheated and she didn't have a job, so she wasn't entitled to the money. From this point on, Queen Karen had a massive decline in the quality of life that she had. She sold her car and got a cheaper one. She adopted different dressing habits. But even after the divorce, she never got a job and was still living somewhat better than everyone else. Fast forward to 1986. In February, Queen Karen and the HOA had been giving out fines for very obscure things and increased monthly dues. Having trash cans out a couple of hours early or after the trash man left would result in a fine. Targeting people that had older or dirty cars goes on and on. Me and the other people in the community were sick of the crap that she and the HOA were pulling. So at the next meeting, we voiced our concerns. Queen Karen said that the community had been falling behind on repairs and that the dues and increases in fines were necessary, especially if people weren't maintaining their own property. She said that it was in the yearly budget and that we should have read it. The other PO'd residents and I go to read the statement. Now, none of us read it because we take it as junk mail and disregard it, but we read the whole statement cover to cover. Queen had increased the HOA budget 15%, and where that extra money was going remained unknown. We went over to her house the next day and demanded to know where the extra money was being spent, but she refused several times. She closed the door and went back to watching TV. We filed a joint lawsuit to find out where the money was going. In June, we found out. Cue the revenge. Queen Karen was living off HOA fines and dues. The increase is because she was running out of money. She still didn't have a job, so she embezzled from the HOA so she wouldn't have to get a job. She gets busted. We call the police for her embezzling the money. She was charged with fraud and extortion. The neighbors and I filed a joint lawsuit against Karen to get reimbursement as well. Because she had no money, she had to mortgage her house to pay us all. She later went to federal prison for 6 years with no parole. Because she went away, no one was paying on her house, the bank foreclosed on it, and it was bought by someone else. So when she got out in 1992, she was homeless. Honestly, the majority of us didn't want to ruin her life like this. Had she toned down the excessive fines, we would have let her be. But she had to double down and steal from us because she didn't want to get a job like everyone else. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.